Hey guys, welcome to another video. Thanks for joining me in this one. In this particular video, I'll be talking about the Boeing company. If you're new on my channel, well, my name is Stephen Ojo, and on this channel, we talk about aviation related subjects and finance. So if you are interested, consider sticking around by hitting the red button below. In this particular video, I'll be talking about Boeing. We know that Boeing has been struggling lately due to, the pandemic, the 737 MAX that was grounded for over 20 months or so. And obviously, things has just not been good for them. Recently also there was a 737 MAX that had an engine shutdown in flight. In addition, the 777 issue that happened recently as well was one of the things that has affected the stock price of Boeing in general. But I want to share some good news with you. Now, I also want you to understand something. Of course, I'm just an airline pilot with interest in finance, and I'm not a professional when it comes to analyzing stocks and bringing all this unique information to you. With the knowledge that I have in the aviation industry, I'm able to bring unique perspectives in regards to some of the stocks that I share on my channel, and that's why I majorly focus on stocks in the aviation industry. So again, don't forget to subscribe. Boeing issues all started back in October 2018 when the Lion Air crash occurred. This led to the death of everybody on board that flight. Well, the next one happened in March 2019, which was the Ethiopian Airlines crash as well. Everybody died on the flight as well. Well, that same month was when the FAA decided to ground the Boeing 737 MAX. This led to all aviation regulating bodies worldwide grounding the same airplane. So this grounding of the 737 MAX led to the drop in the stock price of the Boeing company itself. The thought of most investors was, once the investigation of these two crashes are completed, there will be a report, and most likely there will be some changes made on the airplane and the airplane can fly again. But unfortunately, things didn't really go that way because some of the findings, wasn't really good on Boeing's part, which also led to a lot of scrutinizations on the company's procedures and also the FAA, because apparently a lot of things were left to Boeing to decide, which there should be an oversight of these procedures and make sure that things are done properly. But that oversight wasn't really there. But I won't be going much into the details of all of that. What eventually followed suit was the pandemic. Well, when the pandemic started, in late 2019 into 2020, the aviation worldwide started going to a halt. People weren't traveling, people were getting sick, people were dying, and of course, the Boeing stock also took a plunge from that point on. And this news about the 737 MAX wasn't even helping because a lot of airlines worldwide started canceling their orders. A lot of airlines within the States were canceling their orders as well because, the 737 wasn't really flying and nobody would take airplanes that wouldn't fly anyway. Plus, the pandemic that was going on. To let you know how bad things got for Boeing, the cancellations of the 737 MAX became enormous that it reached a number of about 536 orders that were canceled by different airlines worldwide. This bad news of the 737 MAX all came to an end in November 2020 when the FAA recertified the Boeing 737 MAX that it is safe to fly again. Now, of course, a lot of airlines worldwide haven't really given the thumbs up for the 737 because some of them are still trying to make sure that it is safe for that airplane to be flown. So a lot of governing bodies worldwide haven't really given the thumbs up yet. But the FAA has done that, which would most likely lead to other regulating bodies giving that thumbs up. But right now, since the FAA has given the thumbs up for the 737 MAX, a lot of airlines in the United States are beginning to fly this 737 MAX again. Of course, the stock price of Boeing hasn't really reflected this major change. Well, that is because the pandemic is still ongoing. A lot of people are not flying yet. But the good news also is gradually rolling in that the numbers of people flying is picking up. The demand for air travel is increasing, and going into the summer, the number is gradually going to increase. Means the 737 MAX will begin to pick up again and a lot of orders will start rolling in. So I'll be going over a few information from the financial reports with you that was recently released. And I hope that this will shed more light and let you see under the hood what is really going on with the company. So as we can see from their 5-year summary of the financial data from Boeing, the first thing I want you to look at is the revenues for 2020. They got about $58 billion and 2019 was 76, 2018 was 101, and 2017 94, 2016 93. Of course, 2020 was a loss, and it was a huge loss due to the pandemic and due to the fact that 737 MAX was grounded. a lot of payments were made by Boeing towards airlines for the fact that the 737 was grounded and the airlines were not making any money on this airplane. So as we can see, for 2020, Boeing had a net loss of around 11, almost $12 billion. 2019 wasn't really good, but 2019 was due to a different problem. A bit of 737 was included, the 737 MAX, but also they had some issues with their 777, if I remember correctly. So the next thing I'm going to move on to is the debt. On here, Boeing had about $63 billion in debt as of the end of 2020, compared to what they had in 2019, which was $27 billion. And if you look through the prior years, you can see that the debt has steadily increased with a drastic increase in 2020. Now, of course, 2020 was a difficult year for aviation industry in general, and Boeing had to take a lot of measures to remain stable. The next thing I'm going to show you here is the results of operations in terms of their revenues and their earnings per share. As we can see, it's a net loss of around $20.88 per share. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you here is the revenues from their different businesses. So the first one is the commercial airplanes. As you can see, they made about $16 billion from the commercial airplane sector of their business in 2020. And of course, that makes up the majority of their revenue on a normal day. As we can see in 2018, majority of that came from the commercial airplane sector, and they made about 57 at the time. The next portion of Boeing's revenue comes from the defense, space, and security sector. As we can see, for 2020, they made about $26 billion, and compared to 2019 and 2018, that number has remained relatively steady. And in fact, if you go back to the prior years, that number is relatively steady. That is because Boeing is the major provider of systems, aircrafts, helicopters, and things of that nature, all right, to the Department of Defense and the military in general. And that means that they have a reliable source of income from that business. And of course, Boeing has its revenue from global services, and this number has had a little decline in 2020, but majority of that global services has been affected as well due to the fact that a lot of airplanes are not flying at this point. And over the total revenue for 2020 is about 58, and as you can see, it's the lowest amongst the three revenue numbers that they've shown for the past 3 years. The next one I'm showing to you here is very important. That is because you get to understand where the majority of the losses came from. For 2020, the majority of the losses came from their commercial airplanes sector. And this is very important because this will determine what would happen to Boeing when things pick up again. As we know that a lot of airlines right now are not flying worldwide, or they're still not flying to their full capacity yet. When this pandemic gets much more under control, that means that a lot of airplanes will begin to fly, a lot of people will begin to travel, and that means that Boeing will be able to make a lot of more money from this business, this sector itself. The other thing you also need to consider is this. Right now, the population of the world keeps increasing. A lot of airlines are buying more airplanes. In an ideal world, okay, we should be increasing in size, and which means that Boeing stands a chance of that survivability in a long term. That is because the population is increasing, airlines are increasing their fleet size, airlines are buying newer airplanes because they are about 20 to 40% more fuel efficient, and with this obviously means that airlines will become more profitable to buy more airplanes. So it's going to be a constant cycle that will continue over time as long as this pandemic can be curtailed. In the long term, this is a viable business Boeing is in because they will survive this. Of course, they cannot go down. Right now, the Boeing stock sits around $228. And of course, if I go back to the last 5 years, we can see that it was holding steady between 2018 at around 356, and it made it all the way to a high of about 422 by March 2019. What ended up happening next was the crash of the Ethiopian Airlines, and the price dropped from that to 362, followed by the grounding of the MAX. As I mentioned in my video, this didn't really affect the stock price of Boeing. Of course, there was a slight decline, and the bad news kept coming in that, the airplane wouldn't fly soon, and the stock price dropped. That didn't really hit the stock price of Boeing. What now happened was the pandemic in February, going into March 2020, and the price dropped all the way down to about almost $95 at the lowest point. Between October and November was when the good news of the 737 made the news that the FAA has given the 737 a thumbs up to fly again. And right now we're seeing this gradual change in price. Now the question is, will this continue for the foreseeable future? Will the stock price keep increasing? It all depends. But in my own opinion, I believe that the stock price will continue to increase. According to this article I found on Barron's website, Boeing recently got a buy rating from an analyst with a stock price target of around $275. With that upgrade, he gave few reasons. The first one is that the 737 MAX has returned to service. The second one is the improved outlook for travel. And the third one is the stabilization in the wide body outlook. So the point is, the outlook looks great for Boeing as long as things continue to improve. With interest rates comes a bit of drag in any company in this environment. If interest rates starts to increase, that would affect the stock price, and that might cause the stock price to sluggish or to slow down or even to decline. So we cannot really say exactly what's going to happen, but what we know is that right now the Feds are still holding on to their goal of keeping interest rates at relatively zero. That is all I got to share with you about Boeing Company. I hope that you've gained one or two things from this video. I know it's a bit long and I honestly didn't really mean to get it this long, but I just wanted to give you a lot of information so that you can decide for yourself if you will be investing in Boeing Company. Well, if you have found value in this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel. It definitely helps. And I would love to see you in my next video.